I was in college and working my way through, paying my way and earning money, working full-time, going to college full-time is the way I'd like to say it. And my dad called me one night and he said, Mitchell, guess who got clearance to land his helicopter at the Auburn Labor Day weekend auction that we would be working together? And I said, who? He said, he's one of your idols. Business-wise, think business-wise. I said, Tom Monahan, Domino's Pizza, Detroit Tigers, 44 years old. I love the guy. Forbes 400. He said, that's right. I said, you're kidding me. So the auction's going, getting ready to start, and all of a sudden you hear it, you know, that jet helicopter sound, that and your heart starts beating, and I went out to go get him. And he gets off, I introduce myself, he introduces himself, and these next probably 200 steps we took together, a lot of big time talk started going back and forth because he said, you know, Mitch, I'm thinking about buying one car. I'd like to buy one car and promote it with my business. Well, I had just sought out one of the best Duesenbergs in the world for a collector who, once I got the man who owned it willing to sell it, the collector who wanted it couldn't get the finances together at that time to just pull the trigger. But here was the kicker. It was going to be $1 million. It would be the highest price ever paid for a vehicle in world history. So in that walk, maybe those 200 steps, I just said, hey, I was going to be the deal maker. I said, hey, I found probably the best Duesenberg in the world. The most ones ever sold for is $800,000. This one will be $1 million, be the most ever paid for a car. Even amount, everybody can remember it. You'd set history. You'd probably get more in publicity than what you're paying by far. And he said, I like that. I like that. I want you to make an appointment with me and we'll talk about it. Well, I'll never forget, it was during the Star Spangled Banner, and he was writing down me in his appointment book, Mitch, you know, coming to see him. And we had the conversation. I showed him pictures, and he said, I'll buy it. I said, what? He said, I'll buy it. It's okay. I like that. I said, well, don't you think maybe you should go see it first? And he said, no, I'll just give you the money. You go get it, and then can you just coordinate getting it back here? I said, I really think maybe you should see it. And he said, okay, we'll fly in my jet over there. And we picked the time, and I'll never forget, we went from Detroit to Minneapolis in like less than 50 minutes in his Hawker jet. And on our way there, somebody leaned over and said something to Mr. Monahan, and he went like this, and I said, I thought to myself, I didn't talk out loud, I just said to myself, well, you know, I wonder what's wrong. And the man he had purchased the Detroit Tigers from had just had a heart attack. And they asked him if he wanted to turn around. And, you know, whereas I'm compassionate and everything, and I felt for the guy and his family, I thought that maybe something was going to happen to my heart if we turned around. This was the biggest deal of my life, the biggest deal ever in a single collector card transaction. And he said, no. Tom Monahan said, no, let's go. Let's finish what I started here. By the way, that was the secret to his success. He said, the secret to my success is I finish what I start. So we got there. I could just still see it. We're standing, the seller, the buyer, and I are standing behind the car, and there's this mark in the paint. And I thought, there it is. That's going to kill the deal, because it was judged 100 points. And there goes Tom Monahan's finger, the potential buyer, right to that spot on the paint. And as he touches it, he pulls whatever it is off. He goes, oh, it's just fuzz from the trunk. The seller said, well, almost perfect. And then we realized it was supposed to go, oh, well, I'll breathe a sigh of relief. I thought, great, get the check out. So he bought it that day for $1 million, and he took delivery at home plate in Tiger Stadium. And they brought the car out of center field, and the stadium was filled with Domino's Pizza franchisees and some employees. There were at least 8,000 people there, and they kicked the supercharger in, and you hear it echoing through the stadium, through Tiger Stadium with all this history. And it was just incredible. This, it was just going, just echoing, and it was like that chopper noise all over again, and my heart was beating faster, and you could tell Tom Monahan, who had owned cars in the Indy 500 and even sponsored one that won, he was just getting so excited about it. And we just closed the transaction right there at home plate in Tiger Stadium, where I just hit a grand slam. It took me to rock star status in the collector car thing. And you know what the last thing, after the title work changed hands and all that stuff, you know what the last thing to change hands in a transaction like that is? It's the keys. Every lock has a perfect combination. And only one key represents that perfect combination to unlock that lock. You see, a lock is two concentric cylinders. It has these pins that go through both. Kind of the way I see it is those 4 pins are indicative of the 4 chambers of the heart: the will, the intellect or the mind, the spirit, and the emotions. And so that inner cylinder, that's the heart. That's the human heart. And then what's around it is kind of that next level. It's that heartbeat that happens, and it's the desires, the main desires of our heart. And I think they're control. That's kind of a matter of the will. So as the pin of the will goes up through there, and that next concentric cylinder, it's control. Security, that's a matter of the mind or the intellect. So that's that pin. The pin of the mind becomes the pin of security. There's the pin of the spirit. It's our chamber of our heart, of our prayers. And there's this contentment factor that's really big with the spirit. So as it gets pushed up there in the next concentric cylinder of the desires, it becomes contentment. And then the last one is significance. It's really heavy on the emotion side. I think it's kind of the, hey, look at me. The word sign is in significance, and that's that pin that goes up in that next concentric cylinder. And then you know what happens then? Then you can turn that, because the pins have all been pushed up, and then that opens the door to life. The 3 resources of life are time, talent, and treasures. You know, no key will unlock any lock if it's partially surrendered. It needs to be fully surrendered, and then it can unlock whatever it is. There's this master key called humility. And if you fully surrender your heart, your desires, and your 3 resources of life, your time, talent, and treasures, to the restorer, you're going to find a whole new life that comes only from authenticity, reflecting the design of the designer.